GM, everyone, and welcome to another episode of FOMO Hour. Today is Tuesday, August 5th, 2025. And folks, we had a nice little rebound yesterday, kind of cooling off here this morning, and now the question becomes, where do we go from here? Are we going to new all-time highs shortly? Or are we in for more August chop? Well, we've got a fresh face on with us today to break it all down. I'm your host, Tyler D. No Farouk today. He is traveling. Mando likely joining us here in a bit. But we've got Greeny on with us. If you don't know Greeny, he's a trader, a market educator, a meme coin charter, a founder, has his own show, GC Crypto TV, which just got the partnership with OKX. Really big one. Love having you on, Greeny. GM.
Thanks, Tyler. Yeah, good, man. I'm doing well, thanks. Absolutely. Love you, boys. Been following you for a long time, multiple years now. So it's a privilege to jump on with you. And yeah, busy times, man. Market's doing well. So it's a good time to be a creator and a good time to be a trader.
It's a lot more fun to show up every day when the coins are green and going up. I can certainly vouch for that. So, folks, what are we talking about today? We're going to start with a quick market report. Yesterday's big rebound. Cooling off a little bit this morning. Trump was on Squawk Box yapping. Markets didn't love that. Rate cut odds back up to 90%. We had some big news in the ETH Treasury front. BitMiner up to 830,000 ETH. SharpLink fired back. They added 84,000 ETH in the past week as well. So those two continue to battle back and forth. Pumping. After their newest dashboard was released, memes showing some strength. We'll get into which ones. Troll kind of going off here. This morning, we had REKT hit a new all-time high. A couple big airdrops. This Towns airdrop is live. Magic Eden round 2. A big Yuga deal yesterday with Adam Weitzman. Might get into that. And we haven't been covering abstract a whole lot on this show lately. Hoping to change that today with Greeny. Maybe we will get into abstract and more. Folks, before we dive in, a couple quick shout outs to our partners. First up, Wallet Connect. Wallet Connect is the connectivity network shaping the future of on-chain UX. If you've connected to a Web3 app, you've seen Wallet Connect. That blue logo, it's everywhere. An icon of trust in crypto, as recognizable as Visa at the checkout. If you want to learn more, follow at Wallet Connect on X and Telegram to stay ahead of what's next. And Kraken Pro gives active traders exactly what they need. Deep liquidity, full customization, and 350 plus trading pairs. Build your own layout with drag and drop modules and trade seamlessly across desktop or mobile. Go to pro.kraken.com and trade without trade-offs. All right. With that, let's just go ahead and just dive right in today. I'm going to get the screen share fired up. For those who are in the stream, we are live over on Kick. We'll get that Kick link shared out here shortly as well. Quick roundup this morning. Where are we at on the board? So Bitcoin down 1%, 114K. ETH down 0.5%, 36.30. Sol still up 2%. Looks like at 167. So it is leading the way. Stocks looks like a little bit mixed, fairly even after what was a very solid day yesterday. I think up about $1 trillion or so added to the overall market cap. Partially on the back of this jump in rate cut odds. So CME now has one cut in September at 90%. If you don't recall, on Thursday, after Powell was hawkish at FOMC, it was down to 37%. So it's looking like one cut is heavily favored. I'm actually curious if we're going to start getting odds on 2 cuts. I tweeted that yesterday. Maybe I'm being a little bit too greedy there. We had the dollar. The dollar is up today, perhaps driving some of the near-term Bitcoin dominance. Where are we at? 61.7%. So kind of grinding back up a little bit. I guess just highest level, but there wasn't really a ton of macro news in the past day. So Trump was on Squawk Box this morning. I listened in a bit. I think he mentioned some new tariffs on India, some new tariffs on chips. But other than that, it was kind of just the standard Trump kind of going around the horn, just yapping a bit. So nothing too substantial, I would say. Greeny, you take a look at majors. You chart majors. Do you do short-term trading on these, long-term trading? How do you approach crypto majors?
A combination of it all, I suppose. Like I personally preference higher swing trades. So like I like to usually trade majors or altcoins usually on like a daily or 3-day, 5-day chart. I
Mm.
just I find if you are charting on like lower time frames, you just have to be so plugged in. So rather than trying to catch like little micro scalp trades, I prefer to tackle those sort of swing trades on higher time frames. So yeah, look, I do take into consideration everything. The dollar is at a massive level. Like this sort of like 99 to say sort of 101 level has historically been like a very important support or resistance zone. And if we can stay below that, that's probably really good for risk on assets in general. And I mean, the US dollar dominance as well did bounce a little bit, but it has obviously come down a little bit, which is where we got that little relief rally from 112 over the past couple of days as well. So yeah, interesting times. Yeah, look, I listened to your show yesterday and Mendo was like, look, August is historically like, yeah, not a very like it's just a bearish sort of neutral month, and September is the most consistent bearish month of Bitcoin across history with negative returns. So yeah, it's an interesting time considering we had such a bullish June and July. It is very interesting time.
It is. So how are you? Let's go through the majors kind of one by one. I'm actually curious for your thoughts. So Bitcoin, we kind of just broke out of the chop 110. It felt like a pretty big breakout, right? We'd been chopping 6-7 months at the 110K level. We finally break out to 120. Maybe I got a little caught up. I thought we were just going to keep grinding straight up. Curious how you've been approaching it. Are you currently long? Like, what's your views on Bitcoin from here?
Yeah, no, good question. I was actually more bearish during that consolidation phase. Just like because altcoins are going pretty crazy. Like we saw REKT go up, I think it was like 10, 13x. We saw Pengu up 8x. We saw multiple memes and the stronger altcoins up a couple X's and are at least 50%. And BTC was a little bit still overextended with stochastic momentum, which is like an RSI indicator that I like to use. And my preference was a little bit of a correction. I thought we actually could have gone a little bit lower, but we did take out like a weekly FVG, which is a fair value gap, which is nice to see. We did bounce sort of from about that 112 zone. I am long currently. I'm long on BTC. I'm long on long on all the top three and Farcoin actually as well because it was at the bottom of a range. So I caught those four. And I'm just holding them, stop loss break even now, and took a little bit of profits yesterday during the pump. If they get stopped out, that's fine. I think we do go lower. Maybe we do sweep 110, which is about the sort of 0.5 Fibonacci retracement from the move from 98 to sort of 123. So for me, if we do come back down, 110 is probably a really nice area. And I think it's just about exercising patience. And I sort of speak about that every single day because so many people, like they FOMO into a big green candle or a big breakout candle rather than probably looking to buy when it's a bit more fearful, when there's a bit more of a correction.
That makes sense. I'm curious. So when you're swing trading, is that your entire position or do you still have long-term positions as well that you don't touch? I'm curious.
Yeah, combination always. Yeah, risk management, risk portfolio, portfolio structure, very important. And so no, I have spot bags of memes, of alts, of BTC as well. And then I suppose like we'll speak about abstract a little bit later on, but yeah, like and NFTs as well. Like I generally trade everything, and my group GTG trades everything. And we love that. And I think it's important to sort of be adaptable and be open to sort of new trends and new metas and staying on top of that. So yeah, I do have spot bags that I don't touch, and I have taken profits on them already this cycle. Like I was buying a lot during the bear. So Solana at 17, Radium at 20 cents, a few other trades like that, which were really great. But then I took profits on a lot of those when we had that massive rally sort of towards the end of last year, and when Trump launched his meme coin and stuff like that. So I personally, yeah, I like to hold spot, but I know that we're probably closer to the top than we aren't. And again, I'm not trying to time the top. I'm just trying to make sure I walk away profitable in the years to come.
On that note, so are you a believer in the 4-year cycle?
Yeah, we haven't shown anything to displace that just yet. This cycle is the one time we have been a little bit front running. So we set a new all-time high pre-halving for the first time in history. We probably broke out higher quicker than we've seen. We obviously broke out more recently as well. But we are back on timing around. So the last 2 cycles, the average from the halving to the all-time high is around 545 days, which would see us see a all-time high around mid-October. So if we do rally sooner rather than later, I do get a little bit nervous that that might be the final rally. But if we consolidate for a little bit longer and then pump sort of later into the year, matched with a lot of macro conditions that are starting to be a bit more favorable, right, for risk on assets, then I think we could extend sort of the normal sort of average of a cycle. So for now, I do think the 4-year cycle still remains, but again, it could change in the bear market, where altcoins and memes get absolutely hammered and BTC dominance just keeps on going up, and BTC adoption, Ethereum adoption, and maybe some of those other ETF assets, they might just not go down as much as historically they have previously, and then the others just get absolutely capitulated.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think I somewhat common take. I think there's definitely a cohort on crypto Twitter who feels that like September, October could be the cycle top. Feels like broadly, folks, I ran the poll. Folks are pretty much 50-50 split on if they think we're still in the 4-year cycle or not. If Farouk's still, yes, I think me and Mando are on the opposite side of this, though I think Mando doesn't align with your thought. Bitcoin dominance could continue to just grind up, perhaps along with ETH, but not other alts. Speaking of, Mando, GM, thanks for joining us.
Hello, guys. I've already been speaking to Greeny this morning.
Incredible.
I love it.
What time is it for you? It must be early, right?
12:15 a.m.
Okay, that's not so bad.
It's not too bad. It's not too bad.
Yeah, so Greeny is staying up late with us tonight, folks. So we appreciate him joining us. Amanda, we dove right in. I did a quick market report. I'm happy to pull back a little bit. I don't know if there was really a whole lot of big news in the past 24 hours or so. Curious if there was anything that jumped out to you from a more macro perspective.
No, I mean, the big thing that I noticed was just the big ETF outflows over the last 24 hours. So ETH had its biggest ETF outflow ever, and Bitcoin had a decent one too. So I think pay attention to that. Like ETH has been on a bit of a run here of positive inflows, and part of the whole trade was like, there's money coming in, like TradFi putting on the trade. So I'm just paying attention to that a little bit, I would say. What else am I paying attention to? Yeah, Solana outperforming, I thought was interesting. I've said a couple of times recently that like when Sol tends to outperform, it's like the signal that we're about to sell off a little bit, because I think it's like the last thing that runs at the moment in this market, the last major to run or often. It's kind of like what ETH was last year, in my opinion. Like when ETH ran, it was like a worry, and that's happened again just now. So Solana outperformed, and then the market sold off. It happened a few times recently. So like when Sol starts moving, I think just think, oh, this might actually be a little bit of a mini top. I don't want to say anything crazy, but like they do kind of coincide with each other a lot at the moment.
It feels that way. No, man, this Sol E chart. I guess I haven't really looked at this in a little while. Wow, this has been down only since April 20th.
I put a video out on YouTube maybe around mid-April and said Ethereum's about to outperform Solana. For a while there, we were so overextended. Like Solana had outperformed ETH like, what's that, 800% over the past sort of 660 days. So it was not much of a surprise to me that we had seen a bit of a rally in ETH's favor. And I think that just the heavy buying from institutional wealth, is hard not to ignore.
Let's take a look at ETH. Certainly, we've talked about a good stretch on this show. Green, Mando, very long. I've been pounding the table on the Treasury codes. The ETFs was interesting. I think one factor, I believe BlackRock reports with a 1-day lag. So I want to say that those outflows that are reported in yesterday's numbers actually came on Friday, which would line up with that huge sell-off. I know that's how their Bitcoin ETFs are reported. I don't know for sure, but I think that wouldn't line up with what we're seeing. I would be shocked if yesterday's numbers were negative. And if so, then I guess it was just Joe Lubin and Tom Lee buying up all the ETH because it was a huge day. But Greeny, yeah, maybe elaborate on your thesis a little bit. So in April, so April ETH was, let's see, April 20th, hanging out at 1,600. We're up at 3,600.
Yeah, so on ETH dominance, on ETH first BTC, it hit marks that it hadn't touched in 2019 and since 2019. In ETH USDT, it came back and retested that sort of $1,500 level from August 2023 as well. And we bounced from that region. And that was a big reason that I was pretty bullish on it. And you could really see that the sort of rotation from, and I know you said this yesterday, but ETH beta plays. And that's how I kind of have my exposure to Ethereum at the moment and have for a while. I think things like NFTs, selected NFTs, abstract is a good sort of hedge. Even base is a good hedge on Ethereum still. And I don't think that really changes just yet. And then obviously we rallied from about that level up to 3.8K, a little bit higher, 3.9. But that is historically a very bearish resistance level. We have yet to really show strength above 3,800 in Ethereum's history. We've rejected from there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times now, and more recently. And we had a deviation there in 2021. So this is a monumental level. And to be honest, I'm not surprised to see a nice pullback. And it's probably a good thing that we pull back from that level. And then if we do set a higher low, which we can go all the way to like 2.1K to set a higher low, I do think we can rally from there and maybe do sort of displace where we've currently been for many, many years.
Do you think we're going to break through the range?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
In what time frame?
That's a tough one to answer. I suppose probably maybe Q4. I think Q4 we see a bit of a rally through that sort of barrier of like 3,800 to 4K.
I'm so conflicted on this. And I don't know. I guess, to be honest, I just don't have a strong read. I think on one side, the pace of buying that Tom Lee and Joe Lubin and crew are doing is so rapid that I can see a scenario where it's enough to break through the sell pressure. So today's announcement, Sharplink Gaming an hour ago, they bought 83,000 ETH in the last week, 3,600 average. They now have 520,000. It's around 1.9 billion. And that's still 300,000 less than Bitmine has. They've got 830,000, but it's not even just them. Like one of the private placements just got approved today for another 450 million. The Ether machine has been buying. They've got 345,000 ETH, and no one's really even talking about the Ether machine. So there's a lot of big players in this, and that coupled with any type of an ETF inflow bid, I could see it being enough. I guess the counter, and Udi's thesis effectively at a macro level is the Bitcoin whales are exhausted and out of tokens. The ETH whales are just getting started. And that is what potentially would delay an ETH pump out a few months. So I don't know. I feel like it's kind of 50-50 right now, but it's going to be fun to watch. And I do think still all-time highs in 2025 feels very likely. You mentioned calling ETH over Sol back in April. How do you feel about it now? So Sol is at 165.
Yeah, so Solana was probably my best trade, one of my best trades this cycle, and I sort of scaled out around that. I scaled out at 230, then scaled out 250. I didn't get that 300 mark. I think it happened over a weekend. And then I was heavily in the meme coin since about 2023, very early with a lot of content, and then very early for trading. And I don't know. I just saw a massive sort of sentiment shift with the whole Trump meme coin, with obviously the Libra token, with the Central African token, and all that sort of stuff earlier this year and end of last year, and it was very just PvP, and I was a bit bearish just on a sentiment side and a narrative side. So that was the sort of first warning sign for me. Then we broke some key levels on Solana at about 180 sort of last year. And we broke sort of long-term support that we've been holding since about October 2023, where we really broke out of the bear market. So I actually sold like 90% of my Solana at about 185. and really haven't looked to accumulate it since. Just again, I think people are still trading on Solana, and that's for sure. And NFTs have rallied a little bit more recently and whatnot. DeFi is still doing all right, and there's gaming products and stuff over there. But I don't know. I feel like the sort of beta plays on Ethereum and NFTs and obviously the layer twos have sort of had a bit more, I suppose, exposure and hype. And that's just been a better opportunity, I think, to look for opportunities to trade and to sort of hedge Ethereum compared to Solana. So yeah, very happy with that move so far. I do think that Solana can still rally in time. It just will face a very high chance of resistance again if it does sort of pump back towards that 220 or higher mark.
Yeah, I think personally, a few things I'm looking for. I think when the Sol ETFs get approved and are in operations, they're actually seeing inflows. I think that's going to be a nice bullish setup for them. But that might not be another 3 months. I mean, maybe it's as soon as September, October. It could be later. And then we know sometimes it takes a little while to actually start seeing the inflows. Like with ETFs, what took 6 months, maybe longer, to actually start seeing them. We're catching a few of the Treasury Co bids. So Upexi, they now have I'm trying to see their latest. They have 2 million Sol now. So I think they're the number one Treasury Co for Sol. DFDV's got like around 1 million, 1.2 million or so. So we're seeing a little bit of that bid, but it's not at the scale that we're seeing for ETH or Bitcoin clearly. So that is perhaps a bit of a wild card. You mentioned Fartcoin, one of our favorite tokens to talk about on this show. How do you feel about Fartcoin pumping versus Sol being stagnant? Do you think Fart needs Sols around? Curious for your thoughts.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I suppose it's kind of rallied in conjunction with Solana historically. Big level for it. It's obviously the bottom of its range is around that 92 cent mark. We've had deviation / support there for since April. So that's about 4 months. I did long that with a pretty clear invalidation below. I am cautious. I think like if BTC does want to go lower, if we do see a greater pullback or we chop for a little bit longer, then we could see that sort of just battle around that sort of low or high 80 cent mark all the way to $1 region. That could be the next sort of support zone for a while. I think it's more of a long-term play. I do hold a little bit in spot. I've held that since about sort of 300 million. So I'm still up, 3x on that. But yeah, I like to swing trade, and I think there was a nice sort of swing trade here compared to other things that have rallied so hard. But whether this stops me out at break even or not, that's the question to be asking. Maybe that might even happen today with a bit of blood on the streets.
Yeah, so let's check back in on the board. It looks like our tokens are going the wrong way. Wow, Bitcoin down to 113.3, now down 2%, ETH down 35.80, down 2%. Solana now flipping red on the day at 166. I don't think it's too much to be worried about. Perhaps just a cool off after a decent little rebound. Perhaps it's just more setting us up for a little bit more chop here this month. Unfortunately, it was nice to see far back over $1, though it's now back at 97 cents. We talked about it a little bit on the yesterday show. I don't think we need to go super deep on it. I think Mando's view is probably a longer term trade at this point. I kind of in the.
I think we should do it again. We should do a full segment on it on all the bags at this stage.
We're trying. We're trying to go through all of my my personal holdings. We're at that point of the show. A token that I don't hold, but
you said you had punks. This is something I'm looking at ETH Beta a little bit more. You think that's like the best ETH Beta trade here rather than the coins?
I sold my punk because I got scammed, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would have loved to have been still holding that. I think. Sorry. No, that's all right. That's all right. These things happen, unfortunately. I have made the money back, so that's the main thing since that time. But I think it's a good play. Yeah, definitely. I think like I own a Pudgy Penguin. I own a couple of Moonbirds. I bought some orders actually during the dip as well. Obviously they're not on Ethereum, but I think the tokens, it's been interesting. Pepe's really lagged, and I've noticed a shift sort of when we bottomed out, when was that? Like in April this year and in March this year, everything rallied from there. And then we caught a nice sort of a few swing trades on like Pepe and a few NFTs and stuff as well. But since then, it's been really like REKT, SBX have dominated sort of the Ethereum meta in terms of tokens. And then like NFTs have rallied really nicely as well. Obviously, Punk's, hit 200K and have pulled back a little bit now. But yeah, I think I'm keen to hear your two thoughts. I know you both probably have not ETH liquid. You sort of have beta plays or hedges on Ethereum as well. I think it's diversification is key, because then that way you're not trying to time the exact sort of trend that's going to take place, but you have exposure in ways that should see sort of opportunities go up.
Yeah, I mean, I have been mainly ETH as well as like REKT, obviously. But I've been looking at Punks a little bit more. Like, just keep on thinking that something's going on. That way.
Yeah. What's your entry price then at these levels? Because they're up, like they sat at, I got in originally, I think it was 80K, and they sort of they oscillated between 65K and 90K for a long time there. What's your entry price?
I haven't bought any yet. So I'm just looking at them. I had Spencer on my show on Friday, and he was like, I think the best ETH beta play at the moment is NFTs, and that's where we're going to see money start to flow. And what's really interested me is that what I thought would be more like a blow off top for NFTs, they seem pretty stable. Do you know what I mean? They're rallying and they're holding their gains across all the major NFT collections at the moment. Mm-hmm. You don't see that in meme coins that often at the moment. But whereas these the OG NFT collections are all kind of like they're doubling and then they're holding that, then they're doubling again and holding that, and it just kind of feels as though there's a bit of a movement across NFTs. So I don't know. And then you had Adam Weitzman coming in yesterday and buying like 5,000 other deeds. You have Murakami coming back and doing an NFT drop today, like, and they still seem really stable. You know, I'm just like, these are interesting plays.
They are interesting. Personally, I've been eyeing trying to get a second Punk. It's a kind of a running joke on the show. I tracked the Punk Bitcoin spread. So like, what is it? Right now? It's at like 1.5, 1.6 to 1.
Gosh. Yeah.
That's a little high. I'd love to be able to get an entry a little bit lower, but at the same time, like, I don't know that folks are going to get their ideal entries on this. We saw our first small taste of what a Punk sweep did to the floor. There's a lot of smoke out there that there's going to be more of these NFT treasures. I think they're going to buy Punks primarily. Maybe we'll see some downstream, maybe some Pudgies, maybe some Bored Apes. I mean, you've got folks like Weitzman pouring capital into Yuga right now. So hard to think that that's just going to end. So I guess what I'm saying, I like the upside. You have to think about compared to the other trades too. So like other ETH beta, Pepe, REKT. If you think Punks can go to 500K, that's 2.5x from here. You think you're going to outperform 2.5x in those other positions, right? And as some of the memes grind higher, at 2.5x looks a little tougher to pull off, right?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I suppose that would be $1 billion REKT. That would be probably $1 billion MOG again if we saw a rally. That would obviously, SBX would be 3 billion sort of mark. So yeah, it's an interesting play. It's definitely a conversation to have. I wish I still own my Punk as a hedge as well. I think I was like getting them sub 100K when they were there. It was it was an obvious choice for me. And I'd sold it. I obviously had to sell a little bit after just to stay liquid. I think I don't know how much they would pull back. You are right. Like both of you are right. Like they just keep getting swept. They're a good beta play. I do think they trend towards 500K, which is so interesting because a lot of people were like, as you said, like, oh, BTC is a better play than a Punk. And we've really seen that not be the case for the past couple of months. So yeah, I'm keeping an eye on that. I mean, if they trend back towards maybe 150K, could be a good opportunity.
Are there any other NFTs on the board? I think you hold a Pudgy.
Yeah.
I'm curious, have you been dabbling much in other ETH?
Yeah, I own one Pudgy. I would buy another Pudgy if they do pull back a little bit. I own a little Pudgy. I've held that for a while. I own 2 Moonbirds. I bought one at 1.6 and one around these prices as well. Would love a third if they did pull back to maybe 1.8. I did own a REKT guy. I swing traded that and plowed it back into the coin. And then that's probably my Ethereum play. Then I did buy some. I bought a BTC Puppet and a Node Monkey maybe a few weeks ago as well, just as a kind of a hedge on BTC, I suppose. I do think they trend back towards that 0.1 to 0.25 region over time. Just not sure what timeline just yet, but I think that could be a little hedge over there. And then Abstract is kind of I don't really own many NFTs on Abstract. I sort of own the tokens over there instead.
Well, I want to dig into each of those actually a little bit. So let's do Moonbirds. We had Spencer on the show right after he took over. He was on Mando's show on Friday. What's the thesis when you're entering Moonbirds here at round 2? Kind of like why, and what would perhaps be your targets? I'm curious.
We have Spencer on our show this Thursday, Friday, so that'll be good as well. I think I think people will go to NFTs. I think Moonbird's trending back towards 5 ETH makes a lot of sense. Spencer's very well connected in the NFT world. He made, obviously, over 10 mil on the Pudgy Penguin trade already. It's hard to fade someone that has a VC that's done well in NFTs, who's very connected, obviously, more recently with the OpenSea XP, with obviously a couple of little airdrop tokens there as well. So, for me, it's kind of like a Luke and Nets play, but just a different collection that hasn't run up as hard already. And probably same as you, Tyler, where I'm very heavily exposed to the Pudgy ecosystem with Big Pudgy, Little Pudgy, Pengu, and Abstract exposure. So for me, it's more of a diversification play of what's a better, or not better, but what's an alternative play that's maybe a little bit more lower in terms of entry compared to, say, a Punk, that I could still maybe get a 2x out of minimum, maybe a little bit higher across a Moonbird. So that's my thesis a little bit around Moonbirds. I think obviously we've seen a lot with this cycle already. Azuki was they rallied really hard, then obviously they dumped post token. Apes, I put a thesis out the other day saying that, unless other side really comes, what's sort of the point of holding an ape at this point of time, in my opinion, when there's when you could probably hold a Pudgy instead. It's an interesting play, but I think it's hard to fade someone like Spencer from an NFT perspective.
It's interesting, right? The board, you've got Punks up top, you've got your mid tiers, Pudgy and Bored Apes, 12 to 15. And then there's a pretty big gap down to 2.5, which is now where Moonbirds, Miladies, Azukis are. So seeing someone fill the gap, run to 5, 6, right? It's pretty open air up there. So it's an interesting one. I've been sidelined on the Moonbirds trade, but have been monitoring it fairly closely. I jumped back in the Ordinals trade. I grabbed a Node Monkey. I'm curious. So you grabbed a Node and a Puppet. What was your thesis on those? I'm curious maybe for targets on that as well.
I think just to have, sort of a beta play to BTC. I think for me, my BTC target is around 155, which is the 2.618 fib extension target from the high of last cycle to the low of this cycle. And historically, BTC has always hit the 3.618 Fibonacci target, but that would be sort of 200 and something K. And I don't think we get there. That's it's a lot of trillions of dollars, not only in Bitcoin, but just in crypto in general. I don't think we get there this cycle. So I was like, okay, well, upside, say worst case scenario, we get to 125, 130, which is maybe a 20% move on BTC. Is a Node Monkey, is a BTC probably going to outperform that? I think they do over time. It is going to be, you have to keep your finger on the pulse, look for probably an exit play on those. We obviously saw a little bit of a relief rally. We saw most things up. I mean, are they still up on the 30 day? Yeah, they're still up on the 30 days. So Node Monkeys are up 2.7x. BTC Pup is up 60%. So still a bit of a rally there. And my entry on a BTC puppet is a little bit lower than this, whereas my node monkey was around 0.04. So I'm still in profit there. And exit for those, I think BTC puppet around that 0.1 to 0.12 to 0.25, so a quarter of a Bitcoin. Node monkey, I don't know. I think, yeah, like what they got to 0.8 or a 1 BTC earlier in the cycle. I don't think they go that high, but it could they could go a little bit higher. And the reason I didn't buy a Taproot Wizard, I just like love what Udi's done and whatnot, but I don't know. I just feel like there's just a bit of like awkwardness with the whole like the entry prices for a lot of people. The people who got whitelist for that, so it's around mint price for a lot of people already. And I just think the node monkeys and BTC puppets sort of have a little bit more maybe lore, but also just a little bit more sort of purpose on the timeline from a sort of culture and meme perspective. So those are my plays over on BTC at this point in time. I'd love to get your takes on these sort of ordinals.
Yeah. I was in pretty heavy during ordinals meta 1. Largely exited. I was fairly early, but also bought on the way up. So like I think my first node monkey buy was like 0.16, and then I had a buy at like 0.7, which is a pain in hindsight to throw that much Bitcoin at a node monkey. But at that point in time, it was just euphoria, right? We all thought they were going to flip punks and just go for it. So I've been more cautious to re-enter. I do think that at 0.03, 0.04, we saw some signs of bottoming. There aren't that many ways to get levered Bitcoin. We know that's how NFT people kind of think about these assets, right? As ways to perhaps stack more. And I do think in a scenario where Bitcoin runs, there will be a wealth effect that kicks in, and there's just not that many options. So I do think the big four nodes, puppets, Taproot, and OMB will have a chance to catch a bid. I think what's also standing out about this NFT season so far is there's really not that many new entrants at all. So there's not much more dilution. So the capital isn't going to have that many areas to go. So I think that is part of the bull case for me. And I just personally like the No Monkeys collection a little bit better than puppets. Not a knock on the pups. And I do have the pups runes, so I've got some exposure that way as well. I don't have any outlandish targets. I'm being a little bit more reasonable this go around. But could we get a 2 to 3x on some of these? I think that's possible. For sure. One thing we haven't talked about, and Greeny, I feel bad. I feel like I've been kind of grilling you, but I've appreciated all your
you're welcome, mate. You're welcome.
We are light on abstract. I'll just admit it. We haven't really dug in too much on the show. It seems like the ecosystem is grinding up right now, at least from what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a little bit more content on the timeline. I'm seeing more green on the NFT board. I feel like you've been active, maybe more so in the abstract meme side. I don't want to speak for you, but I'm curious. I guess what made you decide to dig into abstract first, and then where have you been focusing?
Yeah, fair question to ask. I think two main things come to my attention. It's obviously who it is, so it's Luca and those guys. I think Finn has done a wonderful job with the marketing side of it all, and I think that team is doing well considering just like how small their team is. Consumer crypto is an interesting topic in itself. I think it's a really good opportunity for what's ahead. And I mean, we've seen content really shift over the sort of past 6 months, even 12 months. And we've seen sort of crypto evolve. So for me, I was like, look, I'll give abstract a go. So I've been on there pretty much since day one. The sort of first month or two was very dry. There wasn't much to talk about or trade over there. There wasn't much liquidity at all. More recently, we've seen a bit more of a rally. Still, we only have about say $8 to $12 million of volume on the meme coins every day. So when you just like strip back the numbers, and it really, the meme coins over there remind me so much of like 2023 meme coins where they weren't manipulated. You could literally look at a chart and wait for it to come to a level, buy that level and hold it with confidence because it was just going to naturally trend up because there aren't just JEETs like there are over on Solana and stuff. And then you compare that to like Solana that has like $10 billion worth of volume per day, Base that has 1.5 billion. You've got Ethereum that's got 1.8 billion. You've got Polygon that's got 98 million, but Abstract only has say 8 to 10 to 12 million of volume. I just think the upside there is still so early. And I think once Luca does come out and sort of really announce, okay, well, TG is confirmed for like December or Q4, whenever it's going to be, I think people will go, well, now I'll go farm it, right? That's their mindset. So I think placing bets there, and I've been there for a while now, and we've seen that next leg up across a range of these sort of meme coins and NFTs as well. Like On-Chain Heroes is a really good game. Gigaverse ROMs, I hold a lot of ROMs and play that game every day. I stream on there every day, I think. So it's a really good opportunity. I think if you're a newer creator, rather than going to like Twitch or something where there's a lot of competitors, going to something like Abstract where there aren't a lot of competitors is smart. And so from a content perspective, I realized that, and Craig realized that. So that's why we run our show on there every day as well as other sort of socials. Yeah, just placing my bets over there. I mean, it's like what Luke has done over the sort of past 2 or 3 years has been wonderful. And I don't think that sort of stops. So why fade Abstract as that opportunity? The question for me is, like, as someone who's heavily exposed, like I said earlier, to like Pengu, to a Pudgy Penguin, to a Little Pudgy, and then obviously to Abstract, like that's all one big bucket. So I need to be careful if Abstract TG is really starting to come out. Well, if I'm heavily exposed to it, which unfortunately, like most assets that do release an airdrop, they do dump very much after. So I need to make sure, okay, well, what am I thinking about from a risk perspective? Like if I earn enough XP on Abstract, I think I can cook over there. So maybe I do look to rotate my Pudgy before that. So then that way my exposure is not as high and those sorts of things. So I think a lot of people still are fading it. I think a lot of people think it's like Blast. In my opinion, it's very different to Blast. And I think it has a lot more legs than what we've seen with Blast. So yeah, I think it's a good opportunity. Obviously, I understand why maybe your larger wallet traders and stuff haven't trended over there yet, because it's like liquidity is an issue. And obviously volume's like pretty slow. So it is a bit more of a patient play, but I like that, right? It's nice to get away from sort of the Solana pump and dump meta. It's nice to step away from sort of other ecosystems and explore a new ecosystem.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. I mean, on the streaming side, I've seen you blow up over there. I think Eli is another one, right? Who I think this is kind of his first time getting like deeper into like the daily and very frequent streaming, and he's had a lot of success. So it's a good opportunity. We had Luca come out and say that top streamers are going to get paid at the end of this. I think he's in general, a man of his word. So I think you can believe that. It does feel like they are taking like basically the polar opposite approach to how Blast did it, right?
Yes.
So Blast was, let's get all the capital on the chain as fast as we can. Just really blow up and then see if we can build from there. And the reality was it was mercenary capital. It came, it extracted, and then it left. Then Abstract feels like it did not have any real capital influx at the beginning. And it was more genuine and organic. And now it's starting to build on that foundation. And I could actually see, to your point, if and when they announce TGE, are we going to see more of an influx? And then the folks who are in positions already potentially stand to benefit from that. Right. So I do like that thesis. I'll be honest, I've dabbled in Abstract memes and I've just kind of gotten washed. And maybe because I didn't have that long enough time horizons on these. So like specifically, like when you're looking at the Abstract meme board, there's a handful over 1 million. Like they're definitely more like what I would call micro caps. Yeah. So like, how are you thinking about like building positions in these? Like, are you scalp trading them? Or are you actually putting in positions that you don't mind holding for a while? I'm curious.
Yeah, probably the latter. I think scalp trading just isn't, there's like the slippage is an issue. The liquidity is an issue. So if you're scalp trading, then you're losing so much on like fees and slippage there. So for me, I was like, yeah, not really keen to trench. If I want to trench, I'll go get absolutely rinsed in the Solana meme coin trenches. So yeah, it's more of a buy and hold approach. The big shift we've seen in the past couple of weeks was Finn and the team opened up XP to meme coins. Previously, it was probably weighted towards NFT holders and people that play the games and whatnot as well. Whereas we saw like Eli, for example, who has a lot of money in meme coins, and someone like me who has more money in meme coins compared to NFTs. we saw a dramatic increase in our weekly XP, which I think is a very smart move. Like, as much as maybe some people hate that meme coins on board people to chains and whatnot, it's just a part of crypto, and I think you just need to accept that. So for me, I like to diversify. Initially, I was in the top ones because they gave you more XP from sort of day dot, whereas more recently, obviously, the lower caps have sort of given more equal distribution of XP per week. So for me, I sort of buy that tier between sort of what 1 million, maybe a little bit lower, 500K to sort of like the $5 million mark. So I hold a bit of Guna, Retspar, God, SMP is probably the first sort of meme we've seen that sort of come over. That's very kind of ETH vibey. So for those, I think those four are probably my sort of strong plays that I'm happy to sit and hold for a while. And as liquidity comes over, I think those four do pump. Obviously, Abster has been number one and Poly's been sort of number two for a while. And I think those just naturally should hold a bit of value. But I don't know. Like, from a trader mindset, I've always okay, so something like Guna that's at what, like 7 mil or 6 mil is a much easier sort of 3x play potentially than something like Abster here at 27 mil, right? Like, for Abster to get a 3x, that's 100 million. I just don't think that happens as quick as, say, Guna going to like 20 million for a 3x. So yeah, I think there's also opportunities over there, as you said before, for a creator and obviously as a trader as well. And I think it's a good practice to sort of buy and hold. It's a good practice because then you go elsewhere and you go, okay, well, hold on, I need to apply this strategy a little bit differently.
I totally agree. And I had a whole lot more fun in the 2023 era memes when you could actually just buy things and hold them and not have to sweat the hourly price chart. And we talked yesterday about how the median hold time is now like 60 seconds in Solana, which is just absurd. I'm looking at these charts now and I'm kicking myself for not looking at them earlier. But yeah, I mean, if you had the patience, right? Like, anyone who was in these in the May-June timeframe is up pretty substantially. It's like Guna's up, I don't know the multiple, but it seems like it's up a ton off the bottom. Yeah. Abster is a pretty beautiful looking chart.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you're not up a massive multiple. If you got in June, you're up 50%, but it hasn't really been down much either. So it's been a little comfier hold.
And I think that's the big, right. Everyone, like, with the incentive of XP is like, well, if I hold meme coins, I'll get more XP, right? So that naturally helps. Like, if you're in a good meme coin that has good equal distribution of holders where people are gaining that XP, then it makes it a safer play compared to a lot of sort of tokens out there.
It does. Well, I appreciate your insights on this. Clearly, I'm going to have to dig in a little bit more, but feels like you're pretty positioned. You're pretty well positioned for a potential TGE. When do you think it's coming? Do you have a read?
Yeah, look, Q4. I mean, Lucas come out and said what, December or Q4. So it's hard to not see that sort of come to fruition around that time period. So I'd say around that. So yeah, I kind of think of it like a full-time job. If I've like streamed and sort of traded over there, if I can make money over there, then that's amazing. Because that's the goal, right? Make money before an airdrop, and then if you get more money as a bonus, that's the key. But I think, I think a lot of people are still fading it. I think it's going to be an absolute cook later in the year, and I still think you do have time to get over there. Love it.
Well, I appreciate your thoughts on that. I think we've largely gone around the horn. Mando, I'm curious, how is the Yeeter board for the streamers? How's it looking here a full day in? Do we have
it looks like we're on course to maybe make the final. I feel like we've definitely got the tougher half of the draw. Maybe I'll share my screen if I can. So here it is. We're down here. Feels like we're going to beat Jared Collects. Then it's Jay Colby, who's like, he might be a dark horse. This is the real one. Mm-hmm. This is the group of death right here. Wow. Sims is on holiday, so nothing's really happening with Sims at the moment. But Doggos versus Wiz, and then Jersey versus Wiz is going to be interesting. REKT Radio is easily in the top half of the draw. Modern Market, which is legendary, they were meant to get started this week. It looked like they only get started on Friday. And then these all seem like this is like a Mexican battle here. So I don't know. It looks like it's going to heat up. Definitely looks like it's going to heat up. Everything gets reset each week, though, right? So, like, you start from zero. So once we've won this, like that doesn't mean it's over. We go then beat Jake Colby.
Yeah, there'll be a little bit of strategy like the back half of weeks. Do you want to like slow the pace? How do we want to manage this? Wiz going from 0 to 233. Whew.
There is another element of risk to this, which I don't know if it was. I mean, all the holders, all the affiliates were told, but it's not just that the highest volume goes through. So it's actually a dice roll weighted based on your volume. So even if we are at, let's say, 9-1 versus Jared, we basically get to do a dice roll at 9-1 odds.
Okay.
So we may see like big upsets as we go through this based on the dice roll.
That's Sims' hope right there.
Yeah, Sims might still make it through, but yeah, we're gonna do some because obviously there are some smaller creators here up against bigger ones naturally. I think the idea is to add an element of who knows right up to the final.
Under Oath is asking, will the dice roll be streamed? Which actually is
it will be streamed. It will be streamed. It will be streamed in the YEET Discord. I don't know if it will be. We could maybe stream it on this. We could get Ali to stream it because he was going to stream it. That might be quite a lot of fun. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll try and stream it on the Degenz live account so that everyone can see the live draw for Built for Big Moments each week.
It'd be pretty fun to sweat it live.
Yeah.
So I know I'd be tuning in for that. Well, I'm sure we'll revisit this board maybe every day here for the near future. Greeny, I want to thank you for jumping on. I guess before we close, where can folks find you? Anything you want to plug here before we close out?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the first ones we run a show every day. Me and another Aussie creator, Craig, GC Crypto. Hopefully, you have both you lads on the show in the coming months. But yeah, that's live at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every day. You can catch us pretty much on Twitter, on YouTube, on Abstract as well. And then I run a trading group. It's called GTG, but Greeny's group on Twitter. And we've been printing profits since 2023. We focus heavily on sort of educating you to become a better trader across the whole market. So yeah, that's where I sort of do a lot of my work. And then, you can follow me at Greeny Trades on YouTube or Twitter.
Love that. Well, thank you so much, Greeny, for jumping on with us. This was a really fun show. I want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in and sticking with us. Thanks to our partners. Thanks to Mando for joining us, folks. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. Until then, go have a beautiful day.